Pokémon Gaia is widely considered one of the best fan-made Pokémon games, and for good reason. But I've never played it, so I decided to experience this gem in the best way possible by making it ridiculously difficult. If you want to see me attempt other ROM hacks like this, be sure to subscribe. This game stars Professor Redwood, who, instead of showing off a lame Pokemon like a Nidoran or Rattata, sends out a Kabuto. Anyway, in honor of the game's mascot, I name myself Reggie, and I start my journey by going back to sleep. Just 5 more minutes. When I get downstairs, my mom shows me a letter about a library book that I checked out that I need to return to its rightful owner, which is not the library. Seems a bit sketch to me. I explore Salanto Town for a bit to get a feel for this Orptus region and find an old lady at some ruins. She gives me a sob story of how the book I checked out from the library is really hers, and I should give it back to her because it was stolen, and because I'm an idiot kid, I give it to her, meaning I'm now going to have to pay the library like 20 bucks to replace this book. The best way to make money in this world is by fighting monsters, obviously, so let's go ahead and try it. I then randomly find 2 secret potions that I swear I didn't look through a walkthrough to find. I just imagined where I would hide some items, and that's where they were. As I re-enter the city, my mom felt guilty for being irresponsible and letting me leave the house. To make up for it, she helps me get a fighting monster, as every responsible mother should do. I enter the library and am the last kid to arrive, making me wonder how long were these other kids waiting for me. Kid number 2 leaves when she realizes that Redwood actually wants us to work for our Pokemon. Guess that makes kid number 1 my rival by default. The starter options are the Sinnoh starters, and I decide to go with a Turtwig. Now, normally, before starting a new run, I have a nickname scheme already planned, but not this time. And since I don't work very well under pressure, I can't think of a good name, meaning I just go with Wigturt, because it sounds funny. And with that name as a basis, I call my rival Iger. At the prof's house, he gives me a care package that I open right in front of him like a birthday present. I always hated doing that as a kid, and get a Pokedex, card, and town map. And this Redwood card has a lot of different uses. Probably. With some Pokeballs in hand, I head to Salanto Path to get my very first Pokemon, a Weedub. In Archen Hills, I find a Marill, which could be great if he has superpower. Turns out, Liram does. Nice. Also, it looks like my Pokemon's IVs are visible here as grades. That's pretty cool. But my journey is abruptly halted by the Sinnoh gang of Psyducks, who decided to cross countless oceans to a brand new region just to stand in my way. What punks. There is a detour, but I need to defeat Iger first. His Chimchar is still his only Pokemon, and Liram just takes him out in 2 water guns. Easy peasy. In Archam Tunnel, I catch a Spinarak and find a kid's poor little Weedle. But as soon as I get to it, the kid's mom appears and still thanks me for saving the worm, even though she got here like 5 seconds after I did. This game has hidden grotto-like areas, and the one in this tunnel has a Clefairy. Too bad I already caught a Pokemon in this area. I leave the tunnel to find the Professor and Iger talking about increased seismic activity in the area, or in layman's terms, lots of shakes. They want to investigate this, but there's a gym in town, so obviously that comes first. Priorities. This kid, Fernando, is the first gym leader. And since he's new at this, he low-key asks me to throw the match and go easy on him. Yeah, right, kid. Get wrecked. Since he uses fairy Pokemon, I lead with Caranips the Spider against his Clefairy. And that nickname sounds a little bit awkward now that I think about it. It's just Spinarak backwards. Don't think any more about it. This fight takes a while because he heals, and Poison Sting kinda sucks, even if it is super effective. But the Spider needs at least 1 time to shine. Now, let me explain this run. I do have a basic walkthrough that tells me the trainer's Pokemon and their levels, but not their moves. And that is a pretty big deal. So in that sense, I just have to use my best judgment, which isn't always reliable. For example, next is the Ralts, who after disabling my Poison Sting, almost kills me with a Confusion. Obviously a Ralts would have Confusion, I just didn't think about it, because the guide is supposed to think for me. So Liram comes out, and I decide to set up a rollout just for funsies. The Rolt goes down in 2 hits, and the Jigglypuff in only 1. Winning us, well, nothing, actually, because this little baby cries about losing and runs away. He's even worse than Whitney. This baby has a temper too, throwing his Pokeballs. To get what is rightfully mine, I traverse the Wisp Woods, where I get attacked by a ghost Pumpkinmon, and finally catch up to the kid who's scared of all of the Pokemon here. I guess you shouldn't have stormed off without your dead fairies, man. I get the badge, and I realize that I still got gypped, so head back to the gym, where Fernando can give me the TM for Charming Cry. At least he has a sense of humor about this whole thing. Just to check, I used the TM on PRAM, and I still have the TM, meaning they're reusable here. That's nice. Now that I have access to Cut, I find the very obvious second entrance to the tunnel that we were looking for, and see a tablet of a Pokemon with a bad hair day. Seriously, it looks like Medusa or something. In Eris Road, this will probably be the last encounter I show, I find myself a Snubbull, who I actually use a ton in this run. And in Eris City, there's a guy who gets a cup of Joe every morning. And if you want a cup of Nuzlocke Joe every few weeks, be sure to subscribe. Yeah, that was weird, wasn't it? Okay, let's just pretend that didn't happen. For some reason, there are a ton of people trying to get into this art studio. So instead, I head to the museum, where the clerk tries to make me pay. In blood. I'm starting to think he isn't a real museum employee. Inside, I find this group of bad guys called the New Elders, trying to get Herschel to help them with something. But he refuses, which is good, because we need his help in deciphering the bad hair day tablet. Before that, I have to fight my way through a crap ton of Smeargles in this art studio. I probably killed like 10 of them, but in the end, I get an Eevee egg, so it's all worth it. Eevee's legit. Herschel translates this tablet and says we need to head to Apex Temple. On my way, the Eevee hatches, and I nickname it Eevee. This guy has plus speed and minus attack, but I'm not sure who I need him to be yet, so into the box he goes. Spoiler alert, I never actually end up using him. I'm a big Eeveelution fan, but I just never got around to it. I get to Nespin Town and find Iger blocking the gym. Turns out, he wants another battle. He leads with Makuhita against Ubik-Pump, who starts with a Confuse Ray. The Lil Sumo dies in a few Razor Leaves, even after some healing. This baits out Monferno, so out comes Liram on a Leer, and even with 2 defense drops, a Mach Punch does almost nothing, as the Fire Monkey dies to a few bubbles. The Roggenrola also dies to a couple little bubbles. Last is Swablu, who Liram could probably take with a few rollouts, but I don't want to risk it, so out comes P-Ram on a Peck to win the fight with 2 Shockwaves. Iger thinks Experience Share made him lose, so he gives it to me. Whatever, man. I get through the Chatot Gym and begin the fight with Arya. Unfortunately, a lot of my current Pokemon are weak to Flying type, so let's see how this goes. A few of the guys on my team are sacrifices, if need be. I lead with Lubbins, the Granbull, against her Vullaby. I start by setting up a few charms to lower his attack, and then bring out Liram to Defense Curl and Rollout. I know it's not the best strategy, but as long as I can get past this Gligar, I think P-Ram can handle the rest. And I do get past the Gligar, and the Chatot too. Nice, barely taking any damage in the process. This gets me the Plume Badge, which is imbued with the power of the sky. Sounds like a Sailor Moon thing or something. And because it's a Pokemon game, even a knockoff one, there has to be at least one ice puzzle. At the end of the puzzle is Eunice, a leader of the New Elders. She leads with Snover against my Pumpkin. I try to use Leech Seed, because I'm an idiot, as the Snover misses me too. I confuse him and slowly whittle down his health. He probably has an ice move that could kill me here, but that's okay. Said ice move and Hail leaves me with 1 HP, and I decide to not sack the Pumpkin, instead bringing out my Spider, who kills with a priority Shadow Sneak, after getting slowed down. This brings out Noctowl, so I swap to Liram to set up a Defense Curl and Rollout, which might not be the best move. I do kill the Ice Dragon here, but then miss the Frostlass. I switch back to the Spider on a Drain Kiss, and after getting hit once, and missing once, I need to swap to Lubbins, who is immediately crit. Of course. I proceed to miss the first bite before killing with the second. That was not a great fight, but I'm still deathless, somehow. At the top of the mountain, in the Wismus City Pokemon Center, a girl just gives me a choice scarf for no reason. That's awesome. At the real top of the tower is a big O tent, called the Apex Temple, and it's filled with new Elder Goons. After beating them all up, I meet Enoch, who truly believes that first impressions matter, hitting me with a whomever right out of the gate. Whom does he think he is being so pretentious? He then spells out artifact like a British person? Oh boy. Okay, enough of that. The point is, this group wants to rid the world of impurities, and they're going to use the Reggies to do it. Myself excluded. He leaves, then Iger pops up to help look for clues. And he ignores the most obvious one, an open book on a freaking pedestal. The book tells us they're heading to an island, so let's jump on a boat. After beating the gym here, that is. Speaking of, what type of Pokemon do you think the gym leader has? The snow doesn't make it too obvious now, does it? Well, the gym leader Nina actually uses fire Pokemon. So, I leave with Liram to knock out the Pignite with a Choice Scarf Aqua Tail. The Magmar still outspeeds and hits a decent Thunder Punch, that was unfortunate, but still dies in one tail. And then burns me with Flame Body. That's perfect. Maybe I could still take out the Heatmor, but I'm not sure what moves he has, so I don't particularly want to risk it. Instead, out comes Alarogan on a couple of Hone Claws to squash the Anteater in 2 Power Gems, even after a heal. Last is Camerupt, who most certainly has some sort of ground move, so out comes the Flying Bird Totopidge on a Magnitude. Nice. Hopefully, this baits out a Fire move, or a Rock, allowing me to bring Liram back out on an Amnesia. Okay, even with the burn, a 4 times effective Aqua Tail is certainly enough to kill the Camerupt. Well, that fight wasn't too bad, but it does remind me I still have no fire Pokemon, and they're my favorite. I'm just getting pretty unlucky here. I jump on a boat to Sabalu Island, and the first thing I do is beat up this guy and take his fishing rod. He seems so sad without it. I hear a lot about a strong trainer named Bell in this tower. Get it? Bell Tower. So I decide to give it a shot. I fight my way to the top, and things are going pretty well. There are some tough trainers, but then I get careless with Totopidge against a Burmy who barely survives a hit and then kills me with a Sucker Punch, just as I was about to blow her away. I certainly did not expect that. And while we're on this topic, how exactly does a Burmy with no hands even Sucker Punch anybody? That's lame. Well, we're no longer deathless, but Totopidge won't really be missed since I immediately replace him with another, and in many ways better, bird. Bravestar the Staravia, of course. I successfully get to the top of the tower without any more deaths, where I find Bell, a master of Mega Evolution, meaning that someone is going to Mega Evolve. Hint, it won't be me. She starts with Heracross against my Ravestar, who kills with a 4 times effective Aerial Ace. This baits out Manectric, so Turtwig makes an appearance to tank a Thunderfang. Too bad he isn't ground type yet. We trade Bites and Razor Leaf a few times until I get a high roll Razor Leaf, knocking him out. I was about to switch out too. Against the Sableye, Alarogan takes 2 knockoffs and deals some damage, but it's time to switch again. This time to Lubbins, my old reliable. After a charm, the Sableye doesn't do too much damage and falls in a few bites. I try to charm the Mawile too, but he has Hyper Cutter, so it does nothing. And my bite also does nothing, so it's time to swap yet again. I bring out Rubmit, hoping to survive a couple of hits, which he does, but responds with a really weak low kick. I thought Mawile was a bit heavier than that. I consider just sacking him, but I'm not out of options quite yet. Liram comes out to tank a Fairy Wind, and finally finishes off this guy with 2 Rock Smashes. Last is the Audino, who Mega Evolves, but still falls in 3 Aqua Tails. As much as I'd like to revel in my victory, that was rough. Anyway, she gives me a Mega Ring for winning, which would be awesome if I ever planned on using it. As I leave the tower, there's another earthquake, and this old man gets scared as Regirock breaks out of his cave like the Kool-Aid Man. And Belle, the strongest trainer in this city, apparently can't leave her super important tower to check it out, so naturally, that responsibility falls to me. The new elders are obviously the culprits here, and after defeating 2 little grunts, it's time to face Enoch. But I'll take on whomever he sends out. He starts with Tyrantrum against my pumpkin. After a few weak hits, I decide to swap to Rubmit to tank 2 bites and kill with a low kick. This brings out Diggersby, who barely survives a low kick and sets up a Swords Dance. So I swap into the pumpkin as a sacrifice and avoid a takedown. That was pure luck. I had no idea what he was going to use. But this lets me kill the rabbit. The Golurk comes out, and I don't really have any idea what he's going to use either. Maybe a ghost or a dark move, but I'm not sure. I decide, again, to sack the pumpkin, for real this time. That way I can bring out Liram to kill with an Aqua Tail. And after the Aerodactyl gets an Ancient Power Omni Boost, I kill him with a Water Tail too. It was probably not necessary to lose my pumpkin there, but I wanted to play it safe. For my other Pokemon. It obviously wasn't safe for the pumpkin. I enter the cave that Regirock used to live in and find a very convenient map that seems to show exactly where I have to go. Would you look at that? And Iger even gives me Surf, so now I can follow it. What a great guy. On my way out of town, Belle appears and gives me a Cantonian starter. But apparently, I misread the guide before starting this game because I thought that choosing Wigturt would give me a Charmeleon. Instead, it gives me a Wartortle. Well, that kinda sucks. I was looking forward to using my favorite Pokemon here. I surf to a new area and get to Valoon Town, where these park rangers are heading over to investigate Nemesis Cave, which is a pretty sweet name. But what I want to show is the bug catching contest. It's a simple thing really, but the nostalgia that hit me during this contest was powerful. I remember many a Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday loading up Pokemon Silver to try to catch some sweet, sweet bugs. In this particular contest, I end up getting a Beautifly, which I thought was pretty good, all things considered, until I get 3rd place, winning me a Citrus Berry. Woohoo! 1st place got a Beedrillite. That would be concerning if I had to face a Mega Beedrill, which of course I have to do because Vernon is the bug gym leader in this town. He starts with a Shuckle, I want one, who Liram takes out in 3 Aqua Tails. He used a Hyper Potion, so it took a bit longer. This brings out Scizor, who I Rock Smash, hoping to lower his defense, but get a crit and take him out in 3 moves too. The Masquerain comes out, and even with the Intimidate, Aqua Tail is a 2-hit KO. If I can actually hit the thing, that is. Last is obviously this Beedrill, who will Mega Evolve. At this HP, I need to swap, so hoping for a poison move, I bring out Dur on an Aerial Ace, which I probably should have seen coming. I mean, if this Beedrill had any poison move, he would have come out way earlier in the fight, not at the very end. My Aerial Ace barely misses out on the kill, and for some reason, he decides to hit me with a U-turn instead of another Aerial Ace. We are halfway done with the gyms, and considering that I don't know what moves these guys have, I think I'm doing reasonably well. After leaving the gym, Iger gives me a Gas Mask, allowing me to traverse the Telmerk Swamp and reach the next town. But first, I try to sneak past him at the edge of the swamp because I really don't want to fight him, but he gives me no choice. Alright, let's do this. He leads with Hariyama, who fake outs Ravestar, but gets Aerial Aced on the next turn. Out comes Vaporeon, so I bring out P-Ram, who takes a lot from Surf, and apparently needs 2 Shockwaves to kill. I thought I would do more than that. That was close. Out comes Boldore, so Liram makes an appearance to get Rock Slide crit, of course, and I can't kill with an Aqua Tail because of Sturdy, but I finish him off with a Rock Smash. Against Rotom, I try to bring out Wigturt, but am immediately confused and burned and proceed to hit myself. Well, that was effective. Dur takes a ton of damage from Ominous Wind, and I accidentally hit Iron Head instead of Bite. But Rotom flinched, so next turn I get to take it out. That was a very lucky, unlucky hit. This brings out Infernape, but Cool Tent can handle this Fire Monkey, though she's taking more from Flame Charge than I actually thought she would. Still, 2 Surfs and he is gone. Last is Altaria, so my Fairy comes out to tank an Aerial Ace, but he doesn't actually know any Fairy moves. That's unfortunate. I do a bit with Aqua Tail and barely survive a crit as I pivot into Ravestar, and I just hope that the Intimidate helps him survive. as Altaria misses a takedown. Whew, and this lets me take it out with a single aerial ace. That was a close fight. The Battle Marsh is the building that my rival was blocking. It's basically like all of the other battle areas where you earn PP and can get some pretty sweet items. Almost as soon as we enter Telmeric City, we are approached by a biker who leads the group called the Mighty Hyenas. A bit redundant, isn't it? He threatens us, saying we don't want him as our enemy, and then, very politely, I might add, tells us to enjoy our stay. I'm getting mixed signals here, man. I find the Mighty Hyena secret hideout in this casino, with a giant red Hyena in the carpet, and this old man longs for the good old days of Voltorb Flip. Me too, man. I, once again, have to defeat 2 little grunts, and then immediately fight the big boss of the Mighty Hyenas. But it's not a big deal that I'm already hurt, because Staravia can heal with Roost. I'm not going to show the whole fight here, but at one point I swapped to Cool Tent on an Ice Fang, and I thought that a Surf would kill him at this HP, but it doesn't, and he just so happens to have Thunder Fang as well. That sucks. I really like Tentacruel. I beat him without any more losses, yay, and the Mighty Hyenas say they won't be bothering me anymore. Before heading to the gym, I enter the Telmork warehouses, where I find a bunch of abandoned appliances. This would be pretty cool if I had a Rotom, but I don't, so it's just some junk. Oh yeah, and in the real secret Mighty Hyena hideout, I find 2 guys playing the punch each other game. That looks fun, but don't try it at home, kids. Okay, now it's on to the gym. This guy, Sid, lives in toxic waste and wears an Arbok mask. I think he needs some help, or maybe just a friend. So, because I'm a good guy, I invite him to play the brand new game we just learned. For some reason he refuses and wants an OG Poke Battle instead. Against his Arbok, the Choice Spec Turtlewatt starts with a Surf and gets paralyzed. After almost killing the snake, Sid swaps to Venusaur, who obviously tanks the Surf. Anticipating a Grass move and a Mega Evolution, I pivot to Ravestar, who avoids a Leech Seed and kills with a Choice Banded Aerial Ace. Nice. The Nidoking poisons me with Poison Point and does a ton with a Sludge Bomb. Antdur comes out on a heal and Iron Heads the Nidoking in the face after being slowed down by an Icy Wind. Arbok returns, but I still outspeed and kill it even with the Intimidate. The Drapion is still concerning though. He Night Slashes as I hit with a Dig that doesn't do all that much. So I bring out Wigturt on an Acupressure to tank a Sludge Bomb and kill with an Earthquake. Wigturt had a Choice Scarf, but there was no way he would outspeed a Drapion. And then he gives me the Pollution Badge for winning? That sounds gross. I don't want that. Outside of the gym, Iger and a Mighty Hyena, I hope that's the last time I have to say that, warn me that the new elders are trying to wake up Registeel in the Faerie ruins to the north. In those ruins, I find a door whose code I mysteriously know, but I'm too late to save Registeel. Ezekiel already got him. But we decide to throw down anyway. His Skarmory falls in a single discharge from P-Ram, bringing out the Aggron, who is over the level cap by the way. That's cheating. Anticipating a ground move, I bring out Ravestar as the Aggron Mega Evolves and uses Sandstorm. That's fine. He probably has a rock move too, that Wingturt can tank like a beast. Unfortunately, Earthquake gets a low roll or 2, and Aggron survives 2 of them only to heal. Then, I get a clutch critical hit, taking it out without needing to switch. Nice. I try to synthesize against the Claydol, but I can't because of a Choice Scarf. Instead, Antdur takes an Ice Beam, I guess it's a good thing I couldn't heal, and slowly takes out the Claydol with Crunches. This guy just keeps boosting his defenses, so it takes a little while. The Duo Blade starts with a Swords Dance, which is very concerning, but then he never actually attacks, so we're all good. Last is the Cradily, who just falls in a couple of Iron Heads. How is it that even though I beat them at every single turn, their plans can still move forward? I mean, to be fair, that happens in every Pokemon game, it just doesn't make a ton of sense. And Iger realizes the same thing. They now have possession of all 3 OG Regis. Present company excluded. In Pressimos Island, I keep hearing about this new gym leader who came all the way from Kanto. I wonder who it is. But first, I meet Mrs. Move, who is this region's move reminder, and she does it all for free. Sweet! I get to the gym and it's a psychic trainer from Kanto. My mind immediately goes to Sabrina, of course, and this gym leader ends up being Will? The Elite Four trainer from Silver that is always super easy? Well, that was a huge letdown. I mean, it's still cool he's a cameo, but I wanted Sabrina. Okay, let's just get this over with. After spending so much time with the strong canine group that I shall no longer name, I decided to leave with Animite against his Xatu. I am pre-poisoned to activate Quick Feet and have a Choice Band. A single crunch is all I need to take out the Xatu. Most of the rest of his Pokemon follow suit as well. Unfortunately though, I couldn't get regular poisoned, and so I'm toxic, which makes this a race against the clock. Will's last Pokemon, Slowbro, Mega Evolves and will not die in one hit. But that's okay. Animite did a good job, and now he can die. Unless the Slowbro uses Calm Mind, that was stupid. But it means that I get to eat the Mega Slowbro too, and I didn't have to sack this girl. And that's what you get, Will, for not being Sabrina. There's a new Elder Grunt blocking this hotel, and to prove his innocence, he tries to beat me up. That's the epitome of being not guilty right there. In the hotel, I find another Grunt trying to take some guy's treasures, but our battle wakes him up. However, instead of being angry that I snuck into his room while he was asleep, he instead decides to give me the package he's trying to deliver because apparently I'm a trustworthy guy? He would never give it to some complete stranger. That would be stupid. Okay, I may not know this guy's name, but he is now my new favorite Pokemon character. He's just awesome. Outside of the hotel, I have another Regifight. He leads with Hariyama and Fake Out's Wigturt, lame. Still, I take him out with a couple of Earthquakes after healing a bit with leftovers. This baits out Infernape, so I pivot to Lee-Ram on a missed Fire Spin and kill him with an Aqua Tail. Against the Rotom, I bring Wigturt back out and take a ton of damage from Leaf Storm. Yikes. I decide to pivot to Dee's Pharaoh, who immediately gets burned, and since I now can't do any real damage, I just set up a few layers of spikes. I then pivot back to Wigturt on an Electro Ball and go for an Earthquake. Even though I knew he had Levitate, I guess I needed to double check or something. Anyway, with the Rotom's lowered special attack, I can heal, and thankfully he doesn't get a crit, so I take him out with 2 cuts. I really need a fire type already though. The Gigalith comes out and falls in 2 hits, after using Synthesis yet again. The Vaporeon is outsped and gets cut up by some Razored Leaves. Last is the Altaria. P-Ram does a decent chunk of damage with Dragon Pulse, but is outsped and takes a good amount of damage in return. Then, my Metal Ant comes out with an Iron Head to finish the fight. We decide to go on a diving tour together, which, unsurprisingly, is where I get the HM for Dive. And we're such good friends, Iger and I, that we can communicate underwater via Glug. That's the mark of true friendship right there. I go through several underwater caves until I reach Reach, where I find a very minor glitch. You see, I catch a B-Barrel, and someone with experience share learns a new move. After the new move screen, the already caught B-Barrel is back, looking at me with dead eyes. There's a pretty cool crystal cave on this island, with a big empty open room that I'm sure is not related to the story in any way. I arrive in Idashore City just in time for the 200th annual Meteor Festival, where we gawk at a dancing Clefairy, who gets spooked by an earthquake and then disappears. And let me tell you something, you've never seen a group of people more livid than these guys after the Clefairy vanished. It's like they accidentally killed a shiny Pokemon or something. Since I'm the only one stupid enough to stay here, the old man enlists my help in finding the Clefairy. Gee, I wonder where it could be. Surely not in the Moon Cave with a giant open room. Yeah, that's exactly where Clefairy is. And just like those darn Farfetch'd and Johto, I need to sneak up on this fairy a few times until it trusts me. I don't know about you, but I wouldn't trust a creep who tries to catch me from behind once, let alone 5 times. But the naive Clefairy doesn't know any better, and per my demand, dances in front of strangers. That took a weird turn. This dance only lasts like 10 seconds more than the previous time, but that 10 seconds really changed the atmosphere. Yeah, it rocked my socks too, random citizen. Then this elder gives me a Master Ball. I cross the Gyarados Bridge, that doesn't look like the water snake, unfortunately, But that oversight is more than redeemed by this truck sitting next to a dock. If only I had a level 100 Pokemon with strength, Mew would be mine. We have a yes/no question that makes no sense, which is probably a callback. Jumping ahead to the gym, can you tell what type the trainers use here? Not only do we need to use Surf, but also Dive. I can't remember a gym with underwater stuff like this. That's pretty cool. Marina, the gym leader, leads with Quillfish, who a Choice Scarf PRAM outspeeds and one-shots. This brings out her ace, Gyarados. Now, the only reason I can see a Gyarados coming out right now is if he has Earthquake. Going with that assumption, I bring out Ravestar as Gyarados Mega Evolves and misses an Earthquake. But that evolution proves to be his doom, as a Choice Banded Close Combat is now a one-hit KO. Beautiful. Next is Kingdra, who I'm assuming has some sort of ice move. Liram comes out to tank an Ice Beam and is immediately frozen. Man, I was about to start playing rough here too. I wait a few turns to see if I'll thaw, but after tanking Hydro Pumps to the face and a Flash Cannon, I just need to swap. Sphero comes out to tank several more hits and doesn't get frozen like some Pokemon before killing with 2 Power Whips. That move does a ton. The Jellicent hits a Hex before getting Power Whipped, and last is the Pelipper. Naturally, I bring PRAM back out and finish off the fight the way it began, by shooting lightning everywhere. And aside from, getting frozen, that fight actually went really well. But now, I need to backtrack just a little bit. First, I can buy a ton of different berries here, and I certainly could have used a Lumberry in the last fight. I can also drop a freaking crazy amount of money to get a Super Fire Egg, which will evolve into one of the Fire starters. I'm hoping for a Charmander, obviously, but Fennekin is pretty great too. Pretty sure this is the first Fire type of the entire run, and it only took 7 gyms. Woohoo! Turns out that Marina is a scientist, so I give her the idol I was randomly entrusted to deliver by some stranger, and she explains the work they're doing. Effectively, powerful moves, like Hyper Beam, I suppose, leave residue that you can use these tablet idols to detect and kind of interact with in some way. All I know is, this sounds like a pretty convenient thing for the bad guys to steal if they were to get a hold of it. Speaking of which, Iger tells me about some shady guys in the warehouse, but we can't actually get in because a forklift is blocking the way. I mean, we could go in one door and out the other, but I also can't walk around a tiny tree, so maybe I'm expecting too much from little Reggie here. The key ends up being stuffed in a literal haystack, and we enter the warehouse just in time to hear all of the new Elder leaders talking about their plans. It looks like the lady who stole my library book, Morgana, is their leader, which, unfortunately, makes me somewhat responsible for what's going on. Okay, I guess I should try to spoil their plans. Iger, Redwood, and Marina join me as I make my way to the temple place yet again. But it turns out, it's a trap. Morgana did this on purpose so she could isolate me and beat me up. Alright, let's do this, old hag. She leads with Miss Magius, who Aunt Dur eats in a bite. This baits out Houndoom, but my aunt can dig real good and kills the dog. The Drapion does survive a dig, lowers my speed, and just spams acupressure, which actually does let him survive another dig. But on the 3rd try, he finally goes down. Against the Gengar, who Mega Evolves, I anticipate a Ghost move, so out comes Animite to tank a Shadow Ball and then Choice Band Sucker Punch this Gengar right in its huge, awesome, stupid face. I really like Gengar, just not when he's used against me. Last is the Sigilif, who also dies to a priority Sucker Punch. Good stuff. I may have beaten her here, but the other elders already got what they needed. The idol that I just entrusted to the scientists. Man, Morgana collapses the exit, then somehow disappears right in front of us? Not sure how she did that, but after like 5 seconds of searching, I see the obvious exit out back that Marina breaks up with her Gyarados' strength. We're free! Before I can actually escape though, I have some dream sequences or something, where I have to defeat Reggie Gigas with every other Reggie. Not entirely sure what that was about, to be honest, but okay. We regroup in the violated lab and find that Herschel, the guy from way back when in the beginning, is the league champion here. And he knows how to use the secret move, Molten Rays. So, it's time to go find Herschel and rope him into helping us. Before I can do that, I'm the one getting roped in, because this farmer wants me to feed a couple of his Mareep around the farm. I'm a farmhand now, Ma, but I'm not mad. They're too cute, just look at them. I also take a little detour to Lomas Town to defeat the last gym leader, assuming I can actually figure out how to get past these strength puzzles. Everyone in town was saying how beautiful this guy Richter is, but I don't see it. His Hippowdon, who looks about as good as he does by the way, faces off against Nickaniff the Delphox, and dies in a single Grass Knot. He does get the sand started though, so that's too bad. Excadrill is next, and is taken out with a flamethrower. The Dugtrio is next, but I outspeed and kill with a Grass Knot. Or I would have, if it weren't for his Sand Veil ability. Dang it. And naturally, Nickaniff dies to an Earthquake. Double dang it. I forgot he could have Sand Veil. Okay, on to plan B. I bring out King, the Kingler, to take on an Earthquake and respond with a one-hit KO dive. Against Gastrodon, I pivot to Ravestar on what I hope is an Earthquake, that was, and then knock it out with a Choice Band Brave Bird. Last is the Mega Evolving Garchomp. Hoping for a Dragon move, and that he doesn't have Thunderfang or something, out comes Liram to avoid a Dragon Rush, survive an Earthquake, and thankfully hit with a Play Rough for the win. Richter, with his stupid beautiful face, appears to gloat about killing my only fire Pokemon. What really sucks here is that I was already planning ahead for the Elite Four, and that guy was a major contributor for several of those fights. In other words, I jinxed his death by planning ahead. The lesson I learned here? Just wing it. Planning is for suckers. That has been, by far, the hardest death of the run, because I have been waiting for a fire type, and now he's dead. In the desert east of Lomas Town, I find a Krokorok with Intimidate. You know, this actually alleviates some of my pain, because I love this Pokemon. As soon as I catch her, I run to the Pokemon Center, bring her out of the box, and am so psyched to get Moxie by shoving an ability pill down her throat, but it doesn't work. Dang it! If you've seen my Black playthrough with Dark types, you'll know just how great this Crocodile with Moxie can actually be. So, yeah, I'm pretty bummed still. Intimidate is good too, I guess. On the other side of the desert, Iger interrupts me and wants another battle, even though he just lost to the 8th gym leader. Does he seriously think he can win? Alright, let's do this again, I guess. I lead with Ravestar against his Fat Sumo, who, as always, fakes me out, which is fine, because I kill him on the next turn. Or the next turn, I guess. Or maybe I'll just miss and lose my Choice Band in the process. Perfect. I needed that for the next few Pokemon. I try one more time, and here the fly actually hits and knocks him out. Against the Rotom, I pivot to Antdur, who takes a decent chunk of damage, but then responds with a one-hit KO X-Scissor. I was ready for him this time. The Infernape, obviously, baits out a fire move, so Turtlewat waddles over to tank it and outspeeds with a Surf. I actually have a very fast Turtle, by the way. The Gigalith survives the Surf because of Sturdy, but just sets up an Iron defense. No problem, I'm special anyway. He heals, but another Surf brings him right back down. As he's just about to die, Iger pivots to a Water-Absorb Vaporeon, which was actually a decent move. Props for that. D-Sphero comes in on a Protect, and then the Vaporeon wishes upon a star, but he will never see it come to fruition. The Altaria is next, and since I know he's gonna Mega Evolve, I use Iron Head and kill it after tanking a Dragon Pulse. Ferrothorn is good people. I haven't really used one much before, but I like him. Last, and certainly least, is the Gigalith, who gets healed by Wish, but is actually outsped by D-Sphero, who is slower than dirt, by the way, and dies with one more Iron Head. Is it just me, or are there a lot of rival battles in this game? Iger and I make it to Ecos Town, home of the soon-to-be former champion, Herschel. We break into his house together to try and make him help us, save the world. And his response? Basically, he argues that the new elders and I both want power for the sake of power, or something like that. Even though I am literally trying to stop groundbreaking earthquakes, sure, put me on the same level as those bozos. Meaning, it's all up to me. Typical Pokemon games. I find Morgana trying to reawaken Regigigas, and we have another fight. So I'm not going to comment on much of this fight, because for the most part, it's the exact same thing as before. I primarily rely on Antdur for the first 3 Pokemon, just like before, and then swap into Animite on the Mega Gengar. This time, however, I am tormented, which means that after a Sucker Punch takes out the Gengar, I, stupidly, try to fight against the Sigilif, but with a Choice Band and Torment, all I can do is struggle. Huh. Still, a Sucker Punch takes him out. Against the Salamence, Turtlewat comes in on a Molten Raise, never seen that move before, and it does a lot of damage. Still, I outspeed and kill with an Ice Beam, unless he has a Focus Sash. Yikes. My guide said nothing about that. Thankfully, it just so happens that Molten Raise is Hyper Beam-like, meaning Salamence needs to recharge. Whew, if it weren't for that, I would have lost another Pokemon. That was too close. Iger is as surprised as I was that Salamence knew Molten Raise. Apparently, she read it in a book? The very book I willingly gave her way back at the beginning? You can learn things from books? Who knew? Morgana force feeds her fainted Salamence an herb that brings it back to life, and then shoots this tablet, disappearing and making it glow in the process. It's at this point that Herschel finally realizes that the new elders were bad news and need to be stopped. If only someone had just tried to warn him, this all could have been avoided. Oh well, back in Herschel's house, he finally tells us what's going on. Basically, with Molten Raise and the tablet idol she stole from us, Morgana can enter the realm where the first elders imprisoned Regigigas. And, with the other Regis in tow, she can wake him up and cause untold destruction. It just so happens, however, that Iger also read a book, maybe I should give these things a try, explaining that each of the other tablets has a piece of a tablet idol. In other words, I need to backtrack to all of them, re-defeat the new elder leaders, and follow Morgana. Thankfully, Herschel's Alakazam can teleport me directly to any of the tablets. Nice. The first battle is against Eunice, the Ice Guy. I lead with Antdur to take out his Ice Sauropod in a single Iron Head. Next is Frostlass, who is also Iron-Headed. Against the Noctowl, I pivot to P-Ram of course, survive an Air Slash, and Choice Specs Thunderbolt him down to the grave. For the Gastrodon, once again, Bravestar comes in to avoid an Earthquake, and then kills with a Choice Band, Brave Bird. The Abomasnow is going to Mega Evolve, and just to play it safe, I bring out my second Fire-type Pokemon of the whole run, Roarpire, who has a Lumberry just in case I get frozen. I don't, and then a 4 times effective Flamethrower takes out the Snow Monster. Eunice has got nothing on me. At the second tablet is Enoch, whom leads with Tyrantrum against a Choice Specs Turtlewat, who survives a Surf, which I wasn't expecting, to be honest, and sets up some spikes. After healing, the T-Rex drowns in the water because his arms are too small to swim. That's how they all died, by the way. I take a bit of a risk against the Aerodactyl, who Mega Evolves and only hits a Rock Slide. That wasn't too bad, but he also survives a Surf. Dang it! Turtlewat may be really speedy for a Blastoise, but his special attack is not great. I stay in to finish off the Aerodactyl with one last Surf. Hoping that the Golurk doesn't have a Sucker Punch or something, I stay in and finally take something out with a single Surf. Nice. The Diggersby suffers the same fate, bringing out a Machamp. In case this guy has Thunder Punch or a Rock move, I bring out Pharaoh, who avoids a Cross Chop and hits a fairly weak Power Whip as the Machamp bulks up. Hoping for another bulk up, out comes Ravestar, who barely survives a Cross Chop, that was a stupid swap, but manages to kill with a Choice Band Fly. 2 tablets down, only 1 to go, this time against Ezekiel. And I am just now realizing that all of the new elders have names that start with E, I guess with the exception of Morgana. Huh. As we've done several times in the past, his Skarmory dies to a Choice Specs Thunderbolt from P-Ram. His Aggron Mega Evolves as I bring out Wigturt on a Sandstorm. A Choice Band Earthquake doesn't quite kill him, but I take him out in a few turns. After he heals, of course. Aegislash, on the other hand, does die to a single Earthquake. Anticipating a Psychic move from the Claydol, I pivot to Animite, who tanks a Grass Knot like it's nothing, and kills with a Crunch. Last is the Cradily, who immediately confuses Pharaoh. That's fun. Still, he does basically nothing to me, and I hit through confusion twice in a row to Iron Head him to death. After my victory, I go inside the tablet to get the last idle piece, and return to Herschel's, who puts the pieces together to make a new tablet idol. He comes up with a plan where he goes to institute another secret failsafe to stop this whole thing from happening, but that means that I alone have to chase after Morgana. Of course it does. In order to get me through the last tablet, Herschel's Salamence molten raises right in my face, and I reawaken in the Chamber of Gaia, where Morgana does her typical bad guy monologue. Essentially, she thinks that humans and Pokemons are too chummy, and by bringing back Regigigas, we will once again fear Pokemon as we should. And I get that Pokemon are commonplace in this world, and it just seems normal, but I don't think I could ever not be afraid of a 3-foot wasp, and he's not even a strong Pokemon. Okay, it's time to fight Morgana for like the 3rd time in 10 minutes. This time, however, I leave with Krokorok to crunch the Misdrevious, Earthquake the Gengar, after he Mega Evolves of course, crunch the Sigilyph, and, well, you get it. Even without Moxie, this Croc comes out to outspeed and one-shot her entire team. Holy crap, that was underwhelming. And once again, even though I just beat her, she still achieves her goal of waking up Regigigas with all the other Regis, resulting in another fight. But this time, she fights with all the Regis, starting with Regirock. This guy survives an Earthquake, uses Rock Polish, and then does a ton of damage with Hammer Arm. Yikes. He does die to an Earthquake, but I probably should have swapped. For the Registeel, I do swap to Wigturt, who takes a couple of hits before killing with 2 Earthquakes, just like the Rock. Antler faces off against Regice to take him out with 2 Iron Heads. Last is Regigigas. Now, this guy is not too scary for the first few turns because of Slow Start, which halves his attack and speed for the first 5 turns after he comes out. But after that, yeah, he's a beast. My Iron Head doesn't do all that much, so let's give D's Pharaoh a shot. Crush Grip did more than I thought it would, unfortunately, but at least he's getting hurt by Iron Bar. After a few Power Whips, D's Pharaoh is the victor and proved himself superior to a legendary, albeit one who was still a bit groggy. I win, and then the Lil Regis run away, so Big Reggie goes back to sleep, just in time for Herschel and the police to show up and arrest Morgana, which doesn't typically happen to the bad guys in Pokemon games, so it's a nice change. Herschel gives me the HM for Waterfall, meaning I can finally access the Elite Four. And while I was off saving the world, Iger went and got his last badge, meaning I'll have to fight him one more time at the end of Victory Road. Speaking of, Victory Road is mostly outside here and doesn't consist of a ton of confusing tunnels and different ways to go. It's really straightforward. I like that. As expected, Iger shows up one last time at the entrance to the Pokemon League. This time, I start with Batswoo, who is fake outed, as it always happens, and then kills the Hariyama with his Psychic. I bring out Wigturt on the Rotom's Discharge, and almost kill with a Cut, but not quite. Iger withdraws Rotom for Infernape, so I do the same to bring out Leking. Infernape outspeeds me and pivots to Vaporeon as I'm underwater in a dive. Not this Vaporeon again. P-Ram comes out on a Surf and almost kills with a Thunderbolt as Vaporeon sets up a Wish again. But just like last time, he dies before it ever comes true. Sad. The Infernape returns and gets healed a tiny bit from Wish, but that's fine. I'd rather him than the Rotom. This time, Liram comes out on an Earthquake and kills with a Waterfall. I probably should have brought out my bat here, but oh well. Rotom reappears, so I decide to bring out P-Ram on a Discharge to kill with a Power Gem. The Gigalith probably knows Earthquake, but he apparently just tried to use Stone Edge against my bat. And it missed. That's nice. Here I could pivot and try to save the bat's life, but I already have my Elite Four strategy planned out, and only one Pokemon on my current team is a part of it. In other words, I don't really care about these guys all that much. Sorry, not sorry. So, I sack Batswoo to use an Energy Ball, then bring out Antler to use Iron Head on the Gigalith, as well as the Mega Evolved Altaria. Basically, I learned my lesson from the Delphox Massacre. I still plan to head for the Elite Four, but that just told me which Pokemon to not use leading up to the Elite Four, that way they didn't die. You can't kill my best Pokemon if I don't use them. Life hack. After entering Indigo Plateau, I immediately travel all the way back to Redwood's house for one last encounter. You see, his second floor has a Fossil Reviver, And through the game, I've gotten basically all of the fossils you could think of. So I allow myself to get one of these guys, and ultimately, I choose Aerodactyl, who should fit my team quite well. Unfortunately, he doesn't actually learn Brave Bird, even though he has Rock Head, so that does limit his capabilities a bit, as we'll see. In this game, you can face the Elite Four in any order, so I decide to start with Kara and her fighting Pokemon, who I think will be the easiest. And if all goes according to plan, Ravestar should single-talentedly take out her entire team. I get fake-outed by the Mine Show, and then kill with an Aerial Ace. The Howlucha outspeeds, unfortunately, but only uses Hone Claws, so that was certainly a bit lucky. He also falls in one hit, as does the Metachan. The Scrafty, however, has high enough defense that he still dies in one hit, but with a Brave Bird, meaning that I take some recoil damage. I then heal some of it with leftovers, as Lucario arrives, and then departs just as quickly from a close combat. Last is the Mega Blaziken, who I should outspeed and KO with a Brave Bird. Unless my game glitches, and it never actually hits him. Huh. Okay, out of all the things I planned for, that was not one of them. I restart the game and try the fight again. Even though I now know how Lucha outspeeds me, I decided to not change my strat because I want to keep it as close to the previous attempt as possible. Meaning that this time, I get hit by a high jump kick that could easily have killed me if it crit. But it didn't, so my bird still lives. This time, against the Blaziken, I pivot to Turtlewat on a quick attack, that was super lucky, and then I survive another high jump kick to kill with the Choice Specs Surf. Okay, that went reasonably well, aside from the glitch, I suppose, and the fact that I almost lost 2 Pokemon in the first battle. Next, I head to Old Man Leaf and his grass Pokemon. I know I said the fighting trainer was going to be the easiest, but it's actually this guy. I'm pretty sure. I start with Dactyl Arrow against his Ludicolo. Unfortunately, I have to rely on a 95% accurate fly because Aerial Ace isn't enough to kill him, and I can't learn Brave Bird. I know I could have led with Ravestar again, but Arrow has a few tricks up his wings. Anyway, the Ludicolo dies in one hit after setting up the rain, bringing out his Ferrothorn. Unfortunately, it's raining, which I didn't anticipate, even though I should have, so a Fire Fang doesn't kill the Thorn, but it does burn, which is great because a non-burned Power Whip would have almost killed me. We're already off to a great start here. The Whimsicott, thankfully, does what it's supposed to. The Among Us is next, and just like in real life, never seems to go away, meaning my fly misses and I get put to sleep. Since I have a good chunk of health, I decide to let it play out and see if I wake up, as he gets a critical Mega Drain. Seems about right. After one more Mega Drain, I bring out Ravestar to do what Dactyl Arrow couldn't do, after getting hit with another critical Giga Drain. Man, this Trevenant also dies to an Aerial Ace, bringing out Leaf's last Pokemon, a Mega Sceptile. You might have noticed that Dactyl Arrow has an Ice Fang, which would have been more than enough to take out this Dragon Grass Pokemon. Instead, I let Deesfaro come out on a Night Slash and take it out with a couple of Iron Heads. Man, that was not as smooth as I was hoping. That's what you get for relying on a 95% accurate move. The next fight is against Knight, the Dark-type trainer. My Korakork, who only has Intimidate, takes out his Bisharp in a single broken brick. I'm not sure what Malamar has, but I'm confident he can't one-hit KO me, so I use Earthquake, tank a Slash, get healed with leftovers, and finish him off with one more Earthquake. The Sharpedo stalls, protecting himself twice in a row, which I guess is fine because I just heal with leftovers. Then, he too falls to a brick. Against the Weavile, I have a particularly fast Croc, so I feel safe to stay in and outspeed, as I get hit by a priority Ice Shard, which does a good amount. I guess I did outspeed at least. This brings out the Mega Absol, who I will also outspeed and one-shot. So I use a Brick Break, hit myself, and then die? Okay, at this point I do some investigating, and I find out that Pokémon Gaia, as great as it is, has some glitches when Intimidate users fight against Mega Evolution Pokemon. That's probably the same thing that happened with Ravestar against the Mega Blaziken. So basically, it's a glitch so I don't count that as a death. Instead, I restart the fight, and when I get back to the Absol, I bring out Dee's Pharaoh, who is immediately burned. That's perfect. I really need to be using Lum Berries. I get the Absol down pretty low and bring out Liram on a full restore. Since I don't want to risk missing a play rough, I just use Superpower for the knockout. Unfortunately, I kind of forgot that wasn't his last Pokemon, and against the Honchkrow with minus defense, I don't want to risk dying. So, Turtle Walk comes out on a Thunder Wave. Again, I could have used a Lumberry, but after a Sucker Punch to the face, a Choice Specs Ice Beam makes the bird fly south for the winter. These fights are just not going my way right now. That one seemed really solid, and then it wasn't. The last Elite Four member is Nicola, who obviously uses electric Pokemon. This Tesla wannabe fight had better go according to plan, or I'm gonna sue. I apparently didn't learn from my fly fiasco, because to begin with, I rely on a 95% accurate Rock Tomb. But it does actually take out Electabug. Nice. The Electivire goes down in one Earthquake. But then, the Electros comes out, and I hate this guy. Since he has Levitate, I bring out Corocork on a Coil. Oh boy, that's not great. I get an awesome critical crunch that still isn't enough to take him out, meaning he gets another Coil and heals. With his +2 defense, my crunches aren't doing all that much, while his acrobatics does exactly half of my HP. I decide to bring out Turtlewat, who has higher defense than Corocork, and outspeed for an Ice Beam. Against the Magnezone, I bring Corocork back out on a discharge, and hope this guy doesn't have Sturdy. Cool, he didn't. The Lantern also just falls in one Earthquake. Last is Manectric, and even though this could result in a glitch, I stay in and just take him out with Earthquake too. Not sure why this didn't glitch while the other ones did, but whatevs. It worked. Now, the only thing standing between me and victory is the champion Herschel, and his massive beard. Just look at that thing. Anyway, Herschel's beard, and Herschel too I guess, starts with Wailord, who Dee's Pharaoh power whips after a super weak Ice Beam. That's embarrassing, you big whale. Since he immediately sends out his Mega Salamence, that obviously means he has Flamethrower. So, out comes Turtlewat to tank the flames and not outspeed for some reason? Okay, I was sure of that one. I even forgo the Choice Specs here so he could have a Choice Scarf to guarantee that he would outspeed. I mean, just look at how fast my Turtlewat is. That's about as fast as turtles can get. So that must mean that this Salamence has max speed EVs and a speed plus nature. Anyway, I survived, just barely, and bring out Liram to avoid the Outrage. Which was actually a mistake, because that means he can break out of Outrage and heal. Dang it. Well, I survive a Hyper Voice, and luckily, Play Rough hits and kills the dragon. That was a bit rough. Next is Bad Hair Day, so Ravestar comes out on a Giga Drain that still did decent damage, before killing with a Brave Bird, taking even more damage. I use Aerial Ace against the Yanmega, which he survives, and kills me with an Ancient Power, and gets the freaking Omni Boost. Great. I should have just used another Brave Bird here, but I didn't want to accidentally kill myself. Instead, I let him purposely kill myself. Against this now Superbug, I bring out Dactyl Arrow as Yanmega gets healed, and thankfully I hit him with a 4 times effective Rock Tomb, which is enough to take him out. That could have very easily gotten out of hand. The Mamoswine obviously has an Ice move, so I pivot to Liram on an Earthquake that naturally crits and kills me. What kind of moron uses Earthquake against an Aerodactyl? Well, I guess it worked on me, so maybe I'm the stupid one here? I don't know. Against Corocork, Mamoswine now uses an Ice move, but I survive it, and after an Earthquake and a Brick Break, take out the Mammoth. Stupid Earthquake loser. Last is my old friend Alakazam, but since I have Corocork out, a single crunch is all I need to become the next champion of the Orptus region. Now, a lot of times after finishing a run, I feel satisfied for a job well done. Or at the very least, a job done. And I certainly feel that here as well. But those Elite Four fights and the champion battle were not great. That is partly because I done messed up, but also because of glitches that were out of my control. Still, in spite of my failings, I managed to beat Pokemon Gaia for the first time as a hardcore Nuzlocke. And after fully experiencing this game, I've gotta say, it is by far the best Pokemon ROM hack I have ever played. Without a doubt. Granted, it's the only Pokemon ROM hack I've played, but that doesn't take away from how awesome it actually was. If nothing else, and you've somehow managed to watch this hour-long video, thank you for that by the way, I'd invite you to put down Violet and Scarlet just for a bit to try this one out. You won't be disappointed. That is a Nuzlocke Joe guarantee. Thanks for watching, and next time, I'll see you in Kanto.